Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers Podcast.
The Overcomers Podcast is designed to help you overcome adversity and live your dreams. Every week we will be sharing stories of people who found their strength in their struggle. The Overcomers Podcast is sponsored by Journey 333, and that's a lot of threes, so let me tell you what it is. It's fitness, coaching, and nutrition. It is a place where we help you to look better, live better, and feel better, and it is mind, body, spirit. Today, we're going to help you get your mind right with our special guest. What's up, Overcomer Nation? I am here today with my special friend, special guest, fellow Dirk and masterminder. This is the author of The Youth Truth. He's a presenter. He's the owner of PFP over there in Frederick, Maryland. Soon I'll go see him in person because I love hanging out with this guy. When we go to mastermind events, you'll always see me with him. Andrew Simpson, thanks for making time. Welcome to the show.
Travis, thanks for having me, brother.
Wow, this is a long time coming. We've been trying to make this happen a few different times. I'm glad that we're here.
Yep, it's meant to be. Perfect timing.
Well, you know, this show is sponsored by Journey, which is a place of mind, body, spirit, and you are one of the most spiritual people that I know. So I'm really excited for you to share your journey today and, you know, share how adversity has shaped your life. But let's get a little background first. So let's talk a bit about your journey that now became PFP, if you will. So how long have you been doing this now?
Man, so 7 years ago, 2014, I was renting space from a fight club. You might not even know this whole story, Travis. I was renting space from a fight club here in Frederick, Maryland. And I really wasn't sure what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I was 23. So I guess that's the time when every 23-year-old's asking, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? And so I was just renting space. I hadn't committed to a business yet. It was just a small thing on the side. And I ended up going to the Todd Durkin mentorship back in 2014. And it was there that I went from having no clue what my purpose was to feeling like I had a crystal clear vision that I was put on this earth to help young men and women, middle school, high school students, college age students, yes, get bigger, stronger, faster for sports, but also help them develop as people, develop as leaders. And over the course of the past 7 years, the world's just gotten crazier and things for youth have just gotten more challenging. So obviously that purpose has evolved along the way. But yeah, it was 7 years.
If you don't mind interrupting you there for a minute, it's funny that you say, you know, this is what every 23-year-old is doing. Andrew, I've always viewed you as much more mature than how old you are. We are in the most elite, as they call it, of the mastermind. You know, we're in the top group in the mastermind, which means that, you know, you're usually surrounded by people that have accomplished a few things and may have multiple locations, multiple books. But I consider you to be one of the wisest leaders in that group, even though you're not necessarily the oldest one. And I don't think that people at 23 are like, oh, what am I going to do? I think that some people are taking to 30 right now to even ask themselves that question. So
this is true.
You know, so yeah, then you came back with this crystal clear vision that became PFP. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to compliment you for that.
Yeah, of course. So we came back and opened up a brick and mortar facility, and it was still like dip my toes in the water type moment. We signed a 12-month lease on a very small building, very small overhead, just because I wasn't sure what it would turn into yet. And so over the 12 months that we were in that location, we were able to help a lot of people. Well, we started out with 12 clients, and we were able to help them more than a typical gym would help them, right? Similar to what you guys do at Journey, we care about their whole life, not just getting them bigger muscles. And so just based on that, plus we have a pretty big emphasis on the customer experience, again, as does Journey. And, you know, when a person walks in our doors, you better believe they're getting shouted by their first name. They're getting high five, fist bumped, hugged. And, you know, we had a person in the very beginning who really cared about learning people's stories and would, before a workout or after a workout, would invest time to get to know the people. And I didn't realize how valuable it was at the time, because I was all about, you know, let's get on the floor and do the workout and help you with your fitness. But we, you know, having a supporting staff that really invested in the before and after the workout, creating an experience there, I didn't realize how much that was needed in our area. And so we grew quick, man. We grew from 12 clients to 100 clients in that first year. And I attribute it to a lot of different things, but certainly that experience was part of it.
And these are all training clients. It's always good to find out the why behind what people do. So you go to the Todd Durkin, what am I for the rest of my life? You go to mentorship, and then you decide, I'm crystal clear. I want to do something with the youth. What do you think is your deepest, most internal motivation for wanting to work with the youth? What drives you? Because we're going to talk on this episode of how you became the author of The Youth Truth, and I believe that there's been some adversity, at least for our youth, that shaped that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your why? What's your why for working with the main clientele that you do?
So it was very simple initially. I was fortunate enough at 20 years old to come across my first mentor, somebody who really invested in me, taught me, how to be successful in life, taught me a lot of principles about how to live. You reap what you sow. Just simple things that I felt so fortunate to have that person come into my life at age 20, and it transformed the way I thought, transformed my actions. And I started asking the question, why is it that we wait until, 20, 22 to start teaching kids these very important life principles and lessons? Now, of course, some get it from their parents, but it doesn't always happen, right? So I saw what it did for me, having a mentor, a coach, and I wanted desperately to give that to people younger, right? Like, why can't a teenager really start to transform the way they think, shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? And so once we started seeing it work, right, like there was actually 12-year-olds who were craving, this type of coaching in their life, not necessarily at a level that a 20-year-old would receive it, but, tailored to them, call it personal growth and development, call it leadership development. But I realized, like, wow, like kids not only are receptive to, quote, life coaching, but they really are craving it. And now more than ever, they want it. They want something more than just someone telling them how to get stronger and faster, or how to increase their speed or their shot on the field. Like they want that next level of coaching to equip them as leaders.
Oh, that's awesome that it was a positive motivation that got you there. And along those lines, which, by the way, I think you're so right on target. Adolescents, teenagers. Why should we wait till we're 20 when some of the most important years are when they're adolescents and teenagers, and you could really have the biggest impact on what drives the rest of their life, right? Be that spark. So let's talk about the reason for writing The Youth Truth, and talk a little bit about what that book's about, because I think that you've since that time of being a 20-year-old man and receiving a great mentor and saying, I want other people to have that. You've also witnessed some other things that said, I want to write this book, and I want to talk about what
right.
good is. So if you will, can you tell us a little bit about, what's in that book and the reason behind it, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, man, this is the Overcomers podcast. I had to overcome a lot of fear and self-doubt to get that book out there, because I was speaking out directly against the very parents and coaches that through our business we were trying to serve, and to speak out against the youth sports industry that so many of our clients came from. There are we've really gotten to a bad place with youth sports. We are so overly emotionally invested in the outcomes of the game, to the point where parents are fighting at youth sports events. Coaches are verbally, sometimes even, physically harming kids. And these are some of the more extreme ends of what's happening in the youth sports world. But I was fed up. I couldn't go to another youth sports event and watch a parent scream at the refs, or a parent scream at their own kid and embarrass them on the field, or a coach scream at a 9-year-old. I've got stories in the book just that will make you cringe when you read them, because it's gotten crazy. The subtitle of the book is literally Coaching and Parenting in Today's Crazy Youth Sports World. So I talk about the money-making business that sports have become, which was which was hard to write about that initially because we are a for-profit business that serves youth to help them get better at sports. However, for us, we view ourselves more as a life development business rather than just a athletic performance business. So there's a lot of problems in youth sports today. I guess the best way to sum it up, Travis, is when you look at the trends of mental and emotional and physical health of our young student athletes, they're all trending in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Fear is at an all-time high and climbing amongst kids. Anxiety is at an all-time high and climbing amongst kids. Depression, suicide, all these things. If they were going in the right direction, I would say we were making progress and maybe the book wouldn't be needed. But they're going in the wrong direction. So it begs the question, who can do something about it? Because someone's got to be able to lead a charge, to lead a movement that starts to get things moving in the right direction. And from my research, from my experience, I found that there's not a single person who has more influence in the life of a young man or woman than their coach. Their coaches, because they come home from sports and say, but mom, dad, coach said. That's the two most powerful words in the life of a 21st century adolescent is coach said. So what if coaches start saying and prioritizing different things? Could we see a change and the trends start to move in the right direction? I believe yes, for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Coach said, you're right. Like the coach becomes like the Bible, right? Whatever the coach says, like that's word. I see a lot of parents, I think that with good intentions, they say, I'm not going to have my kid have idle time, right? My son, my daughter, it's better to keep them busy. However, sometimes that evolves into maybe a little bit of too much intensity on one part or another, or, what are some of the symptoms? You've just described a couple of unique situations, but in your book, The Youth Truth, what are the problems that you hope to solve? What do you hope for parents to learn from it? What do you hope for coaches to learn from it that we can do better?
Right. Well, I think one thing that comes to my mind as you were talking is let's look at how so many kids are getting home from one of their 4 teams that they're playing for. They're getting home at 11 p.m. on a school night and they can't get their homework done in time. And so they're doing it on the drive. They're doing it on the drive into school. That's a problem, right? And it stems. Here's where it gets tricky. The kid says they want to do it, right? Mom, dad, I really want to be part of this 3rd club team or this an additional sports team. And so they tell their parents they want to be busier. They want to be part of all these teams. And as a result, they end up stressed and overwhelmed and they can't get anything done really well. They just do a bunch of things mediocre. Sounds like a problem that we have in business sometimes, or, when you're a business owner or an executive, right? It's a similar trend. And I think it starts at a young age. So the problem is parents are like, okay, my kid says he wants to do this, so I'm going to sign him up for it. And then we see the negative repercussions that come from that. It's almost like as a parent, you have to take it season by season. And sometimes you have to make decisions for your child's best interest. And then sometimes you have to let them make the decisions and experience the consequences that may come from it. So it's really something that there's not a black or white answer to this specific situation we're talking about. It's got to be the parent really pausing and asking, what do I value most, right? What's most important in our family? Well, if church, for example, and your child growing in their spiritual walk is very important to you, but you're allowing your kid to play on 3 club teams, one of which always plays on Sundays, and the club team doesn't value church, well, now you've got a values discrepancy. Now your kid's confused. And so it really does. In the book, I try not to impart all of my values on people. I try to ask questions that get a parent or a coach to ask, what do they value most? And then let's make decisions in alignment with those values. Another one that every parent that I ever talk to and coach, they all say they value the progress, not the outcome. They value the journey, not the destination. They want to see their kids make progress. It's not about being perfect. Yet, what we recognize and reward is always, always, always the destination. It's the outcome, right? What do we post about on social media? It's the outcome. It's the result. It's my kid got the trophy. When we ask our kids questions, we show them what we value. So when we say it, when they come in for practice, hey, how did you do today? In the kid's mind, that registers as, oh, they're asking about my performance, right? Did I get an A? Did I get a B? Or did I score goals? Did I win the game? And if that's not what you truly value as a parent, if you do value the, let's say, making progress, a better question would be, hey, how did you grow today? Hey, how did you get better today? Or what did you learn today? What did you learn? You guys lost, but what did you learn today? If we ask those types of questions, okay, now we're lined up with what we say we value most. So we could go in a whole bunch of different directions with that, but I think that's really, really important is to decide what your values are as a coach or a parent, and then lead into and through those values as often as you can. We're not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect even in my own business and family, right? Like I get off track, but when I know I'm off track with my values as a business leader or as a parent, if I start to have enhanced anxiety, stress, overwhelm, those are symptoms that I'm living out of alignment with my values.
Yeah, very good, very good. And just to understand the power that there is in words and how we talk to our kids and the questions that we ask. And, parents, you may be asking those questions because they were the questions that were asked of you. And they were the questions that were asked of your parents. That's why they were the questions asked of you. But somebody has to break that cycle. Somebody has to start asking new questions. So in that way we can get our kids to value different things and value not so much whether or not they won the trophy, but whether or not they became a better person. I love that. The coach that's physically or verbally abusive, that person probably had a coach that was that too. And they probably thought the way to get something out of a athlete was to basically degrade them, right? Just really yell at them or whatnot, just to light a fire under their butts or whatever. What do you think that these coaches should value more? Because that's clearly not a great thing for a kid. That's a horrible thing for a kid. It's traumatizing to look back and say, wow, I was just embarrassed in front of hundreds of people out there on the field. I think that's a value thing. What would you want the coaches to value more after reading your book?
Yeah, one of the questions I'll ask coaches all the time is, out of all the players that you are coaching right now, how many of them are you pretty certain would invite you to their wedding someday?
That's good. That's good.
And I get blank stares. Like I've never really thought about that before, but every single one of those coaches wants the answer to be all of them, right? I would hope all of them invite me someday, because if not, and if all I ever did was make their jump shot better or them run faster, and I never built a relationship, I never got them better in life, then they're not gonna invite me to their wedding someday. They're probably gonna talk smack about me when they get older, and they're gonna hopefully try to not be like I was. And I find that there's some coaches, like you said, they grew up with a command and control screamer, right? Like a coach that would just always, a coach that kind of viewed their players as like a wet rag that they were just trying to wring the most out of them. Like how degrading is that? Like how much can I get out of my players, as if they're there to serve you? And so we turn it around in the book and we talk about, as a coach, it's about serving them and finding out who do you need to be so that they're there's a great story of a conductor of this orchestra, and the orchestra, they won like multiple national championships in a row for whatever they were part of, this organization they were part of, or this league that they were part of. And then they started losing. And the director of this orchestra went to his mentor and said, what am I doing? Like, why can't I get them to play like they used to? Why aren't they winning anymore? And his mentor said to him, who are you not being that your players' eyes aren't shining?
Mhm.
And I found that so powerful because instead of looking outward and figuring out how can I get them to do more, a coach is wisest to look within and say, who can I be that's, that my players would be energized and encouraged by me? Because again, the coach is the leader, man.
Yeah.
So,
Who do they
yep.
need to, that's a very important question to ask. Who do I need to show up at in this moment? We have to ask that for our kids, for our spouse. If we're coaching people, we got to ask it for our coaching clients. It's super important. You were reminding me, I have a very talented teammate. He was a great wrestler, and he chose to have his previous wrestling coach be the one that married him. So I would say he got more than invited to the wedding. So it makes me think that coach must have been doing something right. And as you know, we have a coach and mentor, Todd Durkin, that's been asked to marry recently a previous coach client on NBC Strong. So there's a couple examples of coaches that are doing something right. Now, let me ask you a little bit more about your journey, Andrew. So you get on this mission. You're on this mission. You can see it clearly. You know that you're supposed to make an impact with the youth, and you're focused on all the right things. You don't just want a program to make them run faster and jump higher. And so you start including these different elements so that you can be that coach. That coach that was like the person that showed up for you when you were 20 years old and gave you a good mentor. You're trying to really give a mentorship program to these kids as well. And you made a different decision during the pandemic than a lot of fitness business owners made. I mean, I think it was a quarter of them that closed, right? Permanently. And, other people were trying to find ways to downsize, but you chose to do something different. Can we talk a little bit about what you chose to do and how that fits into your vision for the future?
Yeah, well, we tripled the size of our facility during the pandemic, so that was the decision we ended up making. And we made it because we believe in what we're doing, right? At the end of the day, we believe that we believed that the way that the world was trajecting, and again, where things were headed for youth and families, we serve families, really. We have kids and adults that work out with us. Our goal is to get a kid and a parent from every family to work out with us. So we saw that the pandemic and what was happening was really crushing families in a big way too. And we call one of our taglines is more than just a gym. So we believe a gym can change somebody's health, but more than just a gym can change somebody's life and can certainly change somebody's family. So we knew that people were going to need a lighthouse to come to, something that would spark them with joy and positivity when they needed it most. We also joke, Travis, all the time about how, many people have different ideas on Disney World, right? Is it the happiest place in the world, or is it the most terrible place in the world, standing in lines and paying millions of dollars, right? But, at the end of the day, a lot of people find joy, kids find joy at Disney World. But how often can you go to Disney World?
Mm-hmm.
Once a year, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, people need a dose of happiness every week, probably every day. So we knew we wanted to be able to provide something for people where they could get that happiness all the time, not just once a year. So that's what we did. We tripled the size of our facility. It wasn't easy. It was definitely challenging, and we've had some growing pains as a result of making that big of a jump that all at once. But it's part of the journey. Got to go through some pain in order to make some progress. So that's where we're at.
And so how big is your facility now?
So we're in 17,000 square feet.
17,000 square feet. And your vision, which I want to talk a little bit about how you make some of your decisions that you do when you choose to write the youth truth and you choose to move into 17,000 square feet. I think that's being deeply connected to your purpose. But let's talk a little bit about what that 17,000 square feet includes, because that's part of your vision. So what's happening in this big space that you determined that you needed to triple your size to have?
Yeah. So one thing we have is a game zone. Again, got to have a place that's fun for kids, for them to want to be in a safe place, like for longer than just an hour when they come in. So we got a game zone that attracts the kids. We wanted to provide to provide like a cafe type area, a place where people could, again, just hang out and have fellowship and connect after workouts. So we've got a small little coffee bar area with some seating there so people can connect. Then we've got the locker rooms and showers because we wanted to give our, not just our clients, we call them guests, but not just our guests, that amenity. We also needed our coaches to have a place where they could take a shower in between. They coach a session and then they work out. It's like, you got to have a shower before you go work with clients again. So of course we wanted to have that component. But if you walk into PFP, it's a huge open space, and half of it is for adults, half of it is for kids. We wanted there to be a clear dividing line so that no longer would a 10-year-old sprint full speed into the back of an adult who's trying to do a workout and the adult gets all mad at them. So we wanted to have a clear dividing line, but we also found that the adults and the parents, they loved being in the same atmosphere as kids because it made them feel young again. And, hearing the laughs or hearing the, looking over and seeing their son work out while they're working out, it's just like a shared experience. So yeah, man, we had to do that because in our old space, the parents and the kids ended up sometimes working out in very similar areas. And I think now that I say that, it makes me think about even with our own kid. We've got a 3-year-old son. We always want to be in the same house as him, but sometimes it's nice for him to go downstairs and play for a little bit on his own so we can still hear him. We know he's there, but not on top of us. So I think that's the same idea for why we had that vision for our new space.
That's a great example. I get that. It's a very good family feeling environment though, where everybody can benefit from each other's energy, but yet have their own set. That's awesome. So when you make decisions like what you've made, you said you were filled with a bit of self-doubt that you had to overcome when you wrote your book, because you had to challenge people that were in your community, coaches who you'd witnessed and parents who you'd witnessed. And then, we're in the midst of a pandemic and we're all wondering, what fitness looks like on the other side since they shut us down so many times. And, we were definitely under the microscope. But then you chose to triple in size. Where does your confidence come from? Where's the, these are big decisions. I mean, you're a father. How many children do you have now? Two.
Yep.
These decisions are important to get right. You got to provide, it's important. You're married, you got 2 kids, you got a lot of people counting on you. You got a big team, so talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me about feeling crystal clear after a Todd Durkin mentorship and being willing to step out and write the book and being willing to triple in size during the pandemic. Where does this confidence come from?
Yeah, well, a couple places. I think first off, if I feel too confident about something, I'm probably not getting out of my comfort zone enough. So, a God-sized dream, as our mentor talks about, requires strength that's not your own, right? It requires drawing strength from God, from somebody that can do far more than you could ever in your own strength. So for me, when I make decisions like let's triple the size of our facility, it comes after a lot of prayer and a lot of seeking counsel from other people who have gone there before me. And then once I feel it, and it also depends on the size of the decision, right? Like tripling the size of our facility in a pandemic when there's a lot of economic uncertainty, that was a major decision. So that requires a little bit more prayer, right? And a little bit more, diligence. But I think that's number one, right? It definitely comes from hearing from God and from aligning my actions with what He says. But then the other piece really is about if you feel good about every decision you make and there's no sort of uncertainty at all, I just think you're playing a little bit too small. You're not, because I shouldn't have felt super confident about doing something I've never done before, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be okay with not feeling confident, because confidence is something you generate. It's not something you feel first and then take action on, I don't think.
That is really good. So it's not confidence, but it's faith.
That's right.
It's faith that I'm being led in a certain direction and I don't have all the confidence that it's going to work out, but I feel it in my spirit this is where I'm being led, so I'm going to step out in faith. Because
Hmm.
I guess confidence would come from walking by sight, but you're walking by faith.
Yep, that's right.
Very, very interesting. I really like that. I like that a lot. And so let me ask you, how important is your faith to you? Like, I mean, you mentioned praying, and how much has that influenced your life? I mean, is this something that's been available to you since a young age? Is this just a best practice that you've grown up with? How much of a role has it played in your business life and who you are today, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, for me, it's not a piece of the puzzle. It's not like a piece of my life that I'm trying to like fit into. Like, it's not like my life and then my faith and God is a puzzle piece I'm trying to fit in. It is the picture of what I want my life to look like, and then I'm trying to shape everything else around it. That's the picture, that's the imagery that my pastor gave us recently. And I love that idea, because a lot of people they try to fit spiritual life into their life when it is the whole thing. So for me, when I think about why I'm in business and why we do what we do here, there's one very specific reason. Obviously, we're not a church here, right? We're a business that helps people with their fitness and with their strength and with their confidence and all those things. But at the end of the day, all of our inspiration comes from God, right? And it's God is love. So for us, that's one of our at the core of our mission is to love people. And
Yeah.
sometimes what love looks like is, hey, you told us that you wanted to lose 20 pounds, but
Right.
but
Right.
you keep you're not showing up to your workouts. So we got to have a truthful and honest conversation. Like, that's love sometimes. So yeah, it's a good question.
I see the parallels, though. I see the parallels with how you challenge parents in the book. Sundays were important to you, and they're not important to the club or the team that you're playing with. Because there's always games on Sunday, and you can't make it to church. If you have a good compass, if you have a good anchor, you can determine what fits into your life based on what your life is supposed to look like. And
Yeah.
so I see the spiritual whole in that. As people that are spiritual, we try to make sense of things, and I think a faith really helps us to sometimes see our adversities as our advantage.
Hmm.
Has there been a certain struggle that's given you strength, or an adversity that later became your advantage?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. I think the biggest one I can think of is back in 2018. My father, who was extremely healthy, he was working out with me at the gym. He had quit smoking about 5 years prior. He was, he was just on a mission to feel the best that he ever felt and get in the best shape of his life. He had a few grandkids, and my wife and I were expecting our first back in 2018. And so my dad was at a great place in life. And March 30th of 2018, he found out he had stage 4 lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously stage 4, there's not a stage 5. So stage 5 is you're gone. And he went from being very healthy, working out in March, to 6 months later, passing away after a really fast progressing battle with cancer that he ended up, I guess technically losing, but I think he won in the long run when we know where he's at. But that was probably the most trying time for me. And, knowing that my son was going to be born just 6 weeks after he had passed away. So he never got to meet my son.
Wow.
But talk about turning adversities into advantage. It was about a week and a half after my dad passed that I was reading a devotional by a guy named Mark Batterson, who wrote an incredible book called Chase the Lion, a very inspirational book. And in that devotional, Mark Batterson told the reason why he wrote books. He said he writes books because he wants his children's children's children to know what their great great grandfather stood for. All of us have a unique purpose in life, and there will never be another person on the planet that shares your exact purpose. That's fascinating to me, that no one will ever have the exact purpose that I had. And so in that moment, I thought to myself, I've got this message that I know coaches and parents need to hear. I'm scared to share it because I'm not sure what people are going to think about me and PFP, if they're going to think less of us, or, how it'll be perceived. But I've got this message that I need to share. And clearly life is fragile. I'm not going to live forever. My dad passed away, earlier than I thought he would. So I gotta do this now, because who knows how long I have. None of us know. So God was able to use me and my dad's passing to communicate a message that has now helped a lot of people and a lot of families with an area that I believe is being attacked right now, which is, youth sports.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm very sorry for your loss. We knew each other then, and I'll just say it, while we're on this show today, thank you for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable. 6 months, and then to, have your first child born just weeks after, that's really tough, but yet you found an inspiration in that. You said, how can I learn from this? And then that way I will have even more of a legacy. And, the story that was able to touch you in such a special way because of your father's passing. And so that's a tribute in itself. I think that's really awesome. Well, I have a question I'd like to ask everybody. Maybe this will be my book someday. And so this is the question. What do you think it takes to be an overcomer? Since we just talked about what you were, one example of something that you had overcome. And we've talked about a couple today on the show, between, overcoming the decision, the self-doubt to write the book. So what do you think it takes?
So I'm reading a book right now called The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. How to make life not about you, basically. I can't recommend it enough. It's only 45 pages. It's a 45-page book. It's super small, but man, every page has meaning. Every page is powerful. So I think in order to be an overcomer all the time in whatever you do, you have to have this humble view of self, which is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And that will allow you, no matter what you're going through, to say, all right, this can be a blessing to somebody else. This can be a lesson for somebody else. If I persist and persevere through whatever it is I'm going through, I know it could help somebody else. It might not feel good for me. It might not be what I want at the time, but I'm going to move forward and I'm going to continue on because, again, it could be beneficial for somebody else. So I think self-forgetfulness is a key to being an overcomer, even when you don't feel like overcoming whatever it is that you're going through.
Wow. I want to read that book. Say
good.
the title one more time. Self-forgetfulness. What was it?
Man, I bought 12 copies after I was finished reading it, so I'll send you one. But it's called The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. Okay. By Timothy Jennings, I believe, is the author.
The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. I think that's so great. It really is the answer to so many things. I say that about, depression or addiction or just, all sorts of. If we could just find a purpose greater than ourselves or look outside ourselves, many of the things that we struggle with can actually be a little cynical because we're just way too focused on ourselves and our own struggles. So that's awesome advice. Really good. Really good. Well, Andrew, to get more of you, to follow you, to visit PFP, to get the youth truth, can you just give us like a few links and things that people can learn more?
Yeah. Well, the Youth Truth is on Amazon, so they can go straight to Amazon, type in the Youth Truth. You can get it on audio, or you can get it in paperback or Kindle. As far as getting connected and learning about what we do at PFP, you can follow us on Facebook, Players Fitness and Performance. That's for sure. And then my personal social media, you can definitely follow me. Andrew Simpson 04 is Facebook, and then Instagram is Coach Andrew PFP. I believe. Go to the Facebook one for sure. I'm definitely active on there. The Instagram one, I think it's Coach Andrew PFP. We can put it in the notes, I'm sure, if that works.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely put it in the notes. Andrew, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your time. Thanks for being so vulnerable. You're awesome.
You got it, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, Overcomer Nation. Make sure if you haven't already, give us a 5-star rating. Make sure that you share this and subscribe so you can see all of our future content.
That's right. And if you'd like to be a guest on a future show, go to overcomers-podcast.com. If you're interested in our franchise opportunities with Journey 333, then go to www.journeyfitness333.com. And finally, if you like what you heard today and you feel like you're somebody that needs a bit more coaching, go to travisbarnes.com.